How's it going, ladies and bruisers? I'm Bobby Sixkilla and welcome back to Sekimeiya. We are in the security room. We're about to look at the footage. We're about to contact the outside, and then we're going to look at the footage. Hopefully, if the security man lets us. We all got closer to Katai and looked at the screens. It seemed the computer was using a standard operating system, like Windows 10. Is this the current time? Oh yes, this means it's now 9:41. As Katai said, next to the numbers that displayed the date, the current time showed 9:41. That meant the exit would be unlocked at approximately 21:05, in 11 hours and 20 minutes. We started a bit late, so I think the smoke appeared 5 minutes after we left the lobby. I'd say we've been awake for more than 20 minutes already, so this would mean we were unconscious for about 15 minutes. Yes, this matches the amount of time I stayed here after I saw the smoke. Shortly after that, the alarm went off, so I knew that I was already trapped. During that time, until I exited, I stayed looking at the cameras. I also tried to use the computer to look up information about what had happened, but the alarm even shut down my internet connection. Wait, what? Why would it do that? You said you still had a way to communicate with the outside, so why didn't you use it? Oh, I didn't find it appropriate. My top priority was to find out what was happening here, so I focused on looking at all the cameras that remained functional. Don't you think a very good way to find out what was happening would have been to ask the outside? You might be right. That could have been the smarter choice, but I didn't think it through well enough. So, even though the internet connection is cut off, you have a communication method? Yes, this computer is connected to all the computers on the upper floors. Even though there's no connection, a way exists to connect with the Ashiya family, and only the security staff knows about it. It does not use the normal internet connection. It was designed in case of emergencies. So if you weren't here, we would have to spend 12 hours locked up, not knowing what's actually happening, and without a way to communicate with the outside world. Yes, that sounds rough, but the alarm doesn't get triggered lightly. We should just be content with the fact that I stayed inside. I wouldn't have been doing my job if I'd evacuated. Nobody had anything else to add, so Katai proceeded. Deep within many folders, he started up a program that contained a very simple interface. After inputting a username and an encrypted password we couldn't read, he pressed the enter key. A small window shifted into a much larger and empty one. The first thing we noticed was that a loud, unintelligible audio feed was being played. Seconds later, a video appeared in the center of the window. Is that a car? Yeah, it looks like a car seat. Everyone looked at Katai, but he shrugged and kept watching. The video was probably live, and the echo was obnoxiously loud. We could hear many people talking in the background, but it was impossible to make out any words. We continued staring at the screen, unsure what we were actually looking at. Is anything going to change? Nobody answered a question they couldn't answer. After more than 15 seconds, nothing had changed, and the audio continued playing. This is for communication, right? Can they hear us right now? They actually should be able to. Hello? Can anyone hear us? Hello, can anyone hear me? Amidst the messy noise, we noticed one of the voices was strengthening. I'm from Ashiya, talking from inside the tower. Is anyone there? Oh yes, it's coming from inside. There's finally an incoming connection. My apologies. Hello, is this working? Do you see me? The camera was manually moved by the person who sat in front of it. Still inside a car, a police officer was uncertainly fixing his eyes on the lens. Yes, by the looks of it, you're aware of the situation. Katai said that because Ashiya Tower could be seen through the car's windows. A great deal of police officers were in front of it, and I could see that the metal shutter looked just as ridiculous from the other side. It was a bizarre thought knowing that we were inside. We definitely hadn't been on a streak of good luck, but getting trapped inside a building the first time we'd stepped into it let us know that life wouldn't feel like redeeming itself anytime soon. I've been trying to act composed and stave off all my negative thoughts, but the prospect of having to spend another 11 hours trapped in a building was daunting. And Shiroya surely felt similarly. We know what occurred, yes, the Ashiya family was in contact with us, and we were informed of the communication method. Since a member of the security staff was assumed to still be in the tower, we kept this device with us, expecting to be activated any moment. I'm a police officer. My name is Curator. So, can you hear us? Can you see us? No, I can only receive audio feed. The man sounded a bit thrown off after hearing the voice of a little girl. It was only natural given the vast majority of the people who formed the line had been adults. What happened in there? How many of you are inside? There should be 8 of us, even though only 7 are present. However, we can't be certain someone else didn't get trapped either. We've not inspected the entire building yet. You're in the security room, right? If there were more people, can you see them through the security cameras? Let me see, we just got here, so we haven't looked extensively. Some cameras have been disabled by the smoke and some places are without cameras, but I can try looking through the ones that remain functional. Since the number of monitors wasn't enough to display all the live cameras at once, Katai started to move through them with a program that seemed to manage the entire system. Presumably only the first floor was being monitored continuously, being the one with unfettered public access. He was able to change all the cameras being displayed at once, making the process simple and brief. As he'd said, the only thing that could be seen through a handful of them was a black screen created by the smoke. Even after the substance had solidified, there was no chance we could see well without it. We would see well through it. Strangely enough, the last cameras that Katai displayed showcase a much different environment. The first floor had contained all the exhibition rooms, and from there, it had only been dull offices, and some of the cameras were displaying a bedroom. This must look odd to you all, correct? Do you know the story behind this place? This was the Ashiya's family's residence until a decade ago. Then its purpose changed and work floors began to be added. This is why it's called a tower. The townspeople saw the floors kept being constructed, and they started to call it a tower sarcastically, as if it would never stop increasing in height. I don't know if Ashiya liked the name or if they officialized it to counter its negative connotations. You might have also heard it called the Ashiya skyscraper. What you're seeing is the very top floor. When the structure was expanded, for a while the living area was kept as the highest floor, and now it's referred to as the Ashiya floor or the attic. It's not possible to enter without a very special key, one I most certainly don't possess. In fact, I've never set foot inside it despite monitoring these cameras daily. Of course, the cameras were installed after the place stopped being their residence, and they were only placed in some of the rooms before continuing was deemed unnecessary. The initial reason was to make sure it was preserved well, given that it was of great importance to the Ashiya family. They were installed with the thought of someone breaking in expecting to find unguarded hidden information. However, the installation process was never completed. While I don't know many of the details, I can say that not one time have I seen anything of importance happening inside. It sounded interesting, but it didn't mean much to us. Those cameras still showed an entirely desolate space. Every room with a camera is empty at the moment. This doesn't account for all places like bathrooms, areas where cameras are blocked by smoke, the lobby, or other staff-only rooms, and the section of the attic that's not monitored. I'm just curious, but this room doesn't have a camera either, does it? I didn't see it on the monitors. No, it doesn't. For now, the number of us in the building is no lower than 8. We haven't been able to find the 8th person yet, but she must be here. I'm talking about Naomi Kabaka. Kabka? Yeah, let's go Kabka. Another staff member. I understand. Given the name of everyone present, I'll add Miss Kabka to the list. I'm Katai Kuiji. I'm the main person in charge of the tower security system. Everyone else I have with me is a visitor. Understood, what are your names? I'm Erina Majutsu. My daughter, Isla Majutsu, is who spoke earlier. I'm noting it down. Akaru Asata. Atsuki Hakutoki. Shiroya Mirana. Sai what? Sayomiya. Alright, thank you. So, adding Miss Kabka, these are the 8 people we know for sure are currently inside. This will be helpful. Yes, right now there has to be a place we can't see from here. The chance that someone else is here is too slim. So how's our situation looking? We also appreciate having information. We don't have much to work with, only the testimony from people who were inside at the time. Given all the visitors were in the lobby, we don't have a comprehensive rundown to give you. Unidentified smoke appeared on the first floor, and shortly after an alarm went off. The effect of this alarm was to seal all the exit routes. We already know this. Why was the alarm triggered? How can we leave? There's one thing that triggers the alarm. According to what we've been told, it's forcing open the Sekimeiya cabinet. What do you mean? We were just here now and the cabinet looked fine. Not only that, but when the alarm went off, I was in the room with that very cabinet and I didn't hear anything happening to it. That sounds strange. This is reliable information that's been provided to us, so I don't know if it's possible something else triggered it. Maybe the system broke. What's for sure is we just observed the Sekimeiya. Everything there is intact. I'm sure the Ashiya family will be glad to hear that. I'll tell them immediately. However, that is as unexpected, seeing as all that was stolen were a few gemstones of little value. Everyone had a hard time processing that last sentence. Meanwhile, Suripo looked to be sending a text message, most likely to Ashiya, assuring the well-being of the Sekimeiya. What do you mean? What was stolen? Well, naturally, after the alarm went off, it took a while to confine everyone who had been evacuated. A young individual carrying a black suitcase dashed off, so they were pulled aside. Inside it, we found various gemstones that belonged to Ashiya. That individual has refused to say anything, however, it has been assumed that some part of their actions triggered the alarm. If you say the Sekimeiya cabinet hasn't been damaged though, that puts some doubt on that conclusion. If their plan triggered the alarm, how'd they manage to avoid getting trapped? We don't know, but since nothing is wrong with the Sekimeiya, this seems to confirm the goal was to divert everyone's expectations and steal a bunch of regular gems, while everyone in charge thought they knew the next target. What do you mean the next target? And how long will we need to stay here as a result of this stunt? Both of your questions are related actually. I assume this means you haven't heard of the past incidents. Past incidents? What does that mean? I read about it not long ago in Yushi News, about how Ashiya Tower had suffered another robbery yet again by a group called Shin, I believe. Yushi News is a monthly newspaper that released a compilation of all the recent news. Given our town wasn't very big, it was a very popular way to keep oneself updated, but it wasn't something I often looked at. Exactly. The Ashiya family and Shin have a history together. Even though Ashiya are perceived as the major force around, when they attract people interested in their business, they inevitably drew in competition, and enemies too. That part was majorly taken by Shin, a long-running group that specialises in robberies of valuable objects, alongside similar criminal activities. When the Ashiya family became an established and wealthy entity, they also became a great target for Shin. The fact that they had developed in such a calm environment meant their security measures were far from prepared. It's rumoured that Shin is a small group of people who work together and put a great deal of effort into their plans. Not a single time have they been caught, which evidently gave them a strong reputation that most people came to know. While for Yushibana residents, the Ashiya family might look like an almighty entity, in a slightly bigger picture, they're not one at all. This led them to focusing on expanding themselves before even foreseeing or trying to prevent these attacks, which have only been getting bolder. The first one happened 2 years ago. The security at the time was nothing special, so it looked like a small job, not anything of particular note. However, since then, the attacks increased in both scale and frequency. I couldn't tell you how big this group calling itself Shin really is, but they haven't stopped tormenting Ashiya. Stopping them has been pretty problematic, and now they're attacking in broad daylight with mass panic like this. At least we assume they're involved here. Had such a battle actually happened in the town I'd always lived in? I'd purposely avoided that entire side of it, but I hadn't heard of Shin even once. I could vaguely recall having heard that Ashiya Tower had been robbed, but I never imagined the events were of such large scale. No one I frequently talked to had any interest in the topic, so if it was common knowledge I'd never been told. Ashiya had always felt like a taboo, and I'd never personally researched them. I think the last time this happened wasn't too long ago, right? I was scared to bring Isla here, but she was really excited. Yes, on the 24th of November, 21 days ago, Shin last attacked. Ignoring the latest security upgrades, they made their way in during the night and stole a lot of valuable gems. It was one of the strongest attacks Ashiya had suffered to date. Correct. Nothing actually indicates Shin were the ones involved, and in fact, nothing ever does. However, the way everything goes smoothly, and all of Ashiya's efforts are proven futile, screams Shin to everyone. So this time, Ashiya took it a step further, right? Perhaps we've all been thinking that. It looked like we'd simply been caught in the middle of a rivalry and Ashiya's latest movement imprisoned us. Yes, it is possible that Shin aren't actually involved, given the stolen gems were found. Nevertheless, the way you were taken out is still unknown. They were taken out is still unknown. They were in one of the deepest rooms of the floor you're on. What closed the exit was the alarm, which had never gone off in the past. While Ashiya are denying it, malfunctions are a possibility. The alarm was supposed to go off only whenever the Sekimeiya cabinet was forced open. If stealing the gems we found was what triggered it, it doesn't make sense that they were brought outside. On top of that, you're saying the Sekimeiya and the cabinet are intact. It all sounded very strange, and I was admittedly intrigued. I've been given authority to tell you about Ashiya's latest move against Shin, which led to this incident. I see. This is what I felt I couldn't say earlier. Keep in mind that what I'm about to tell you is a confidential matter that you're only allowed to hear because of your circumstances. One constant has always followed with Shin's attacks is that they attack during the night, presumably to minimize risk. Since no matter what Ashiya tried, Shin bypassed it without an issue, they recently put their full effort into a way to eliminate that threat. The Sekimeiya exhibition was no more than bait they put out to lure in Shin. That, and the alarm they secretly designed, were the two main factors of their plan. The tower is equipped with cameras and security, however, Ashiya hoped Shin wouldn't anticipate such an abrupt jump in their measures. There was so much advertising done for this particular showing that everyone in town brought into it. That was the goal. But on the side, Ashiya secretly designed the alarm. It was going to be activated whenever the cabinet was forced open. Only one true key of the cabinet was made, and the lock was very carefully designed to only allow the correct one. The cabinet itself, however, was one they already had, and could easily be broken with force. Obviously, breaking the glass of the cabinet would also activate the alarm. It was done so that any method of getting the Sekimeiya out without the key would trigger the alarm and trap the culprit with no way of escape. What the hell is this about? The shutter could have injured people as they were escaping. No, the mechanism is equipped with a sensor. If anyone had been in front of the shutter before it closed, it would have stopped moving until they stepped away. We all kept silent at the realization that our situation was far more unusual than we thought. The final element of the plan was the room you are currently in, the security room. The alarm, along with the blocking off of all methods of escape, has other smaller functions, such as disabling the elevator, some lights and communication methods. The maximum time the exit was going to be shut was 12 hours. Maximum time? Does that mean it could be less than that? Yes, but please don't get your hopes up. After the alarm, the Shin members that got trapped inside would have nowhere to leave. You might have noticed the security room's door is sturdier than the others. The last function of the alarm is to lock it. Like the cabinet's lock, once the security room's door is locked, it can only be opened with the actual key, which is possessed by the security staff. Every staff member worked to put the mechanism and plan into effect, and they knew very well what they had to do. Today, only Katai Kuiji was present. A security member would have been inside the room constantly, monitoring the cameras. Of course, this is always done. Shin have shown multiple ways to overcome the cameras, but this time, this is of little importance. During the time anyone from Shin was trapped, the security member of the security room would have one job, to relay information between the inside and the outside. This is why the security room is the only place where communication methods aren't cut off. Once it was all over, the security staff would be able to unlock the exit before the 12 hours, to ultimately ensure nothing funny occurred. That request would have been approved by the Ashiya family themselves. Only then would the exit be open before the maximum time. So you're saying they won't accept it? No, they can't. They don't know why, but they're unable to even access the command that would let them give approval to open the exit. They aren't sure, but most likely something went wrong. Given the cause of the alarm is unknown, the most reasonable explanation is a malfunction. Hey, Katai, you knew about this function, right? Why'd you say that we'd be here for 12 hours without mentioning that you had a chance to open the shutter earlier? Oh, back then I didn't think I was allowed to explain the mechanism and reason behind the alarm, but I was certain we wouldn't be leaving before the 12 hours were up. When I was still in this room, I noticed the same thing the Ashiya family noticed. I didn't have permission to access the command. That meant that we would spend the full time here. In case something went wrong, this failsafe was designed. The exit would always open 12 hours after it locked. Obviously, that much time ensured that if a Shin member had gotten trapped, they couldn't escape when the time ran out. How is it possible you don't have access to it? Can you fix it? I'm afraid I don't know where to start. I have no clue what caused it, but if the Ashiya family is encountering the same error, it doesn't look like something I could solve. Then, isn't there a way to take down the shutters from the outside? No. The attack was assumed to come during the night, but it happened this morning instead. I don't know a lot of details about this, but evidently Ashiya was going to trap at least one Shin member inside and try to squeeze him for information over the security room microphone. No one really knows how big Shin is, but the shutters were designed in such a way that, in case members came to rescue their trapped comrades, they couldn't do anything from the outside. This is why, in much the same way, we can't do anything to break them down without a method that would also collapse the entire building. They might look flimsy, but I guarantee you, they're not. I'm confused. Katai, if you knew all about this, why'd you ever leave the security room? Why didn't you use the microphone to talk to the trapped culprit, as you all agreed? To tell you the truth, I did. All of you are unconscious though, so you didn't hear me. I didn't receive a reply, and since the most important cameras have been disabled, I wanted to see for myself what had happened. So all of this means there's no way out right now at all. Yes, Ashiya informed us of the plan days ago. They were certain Shin would attack, so the police had to be caught up. Since today was the last possible day, we were all anticipating Shin to come during the night, long before 9 o'clock. I myself was in the tower, aware of the chances of a theft were incredibly likely. I kept talking to Ashiya's staff about what the procedure would be if something were to happen. Sure enough, after thinking about it, I recalled having seen him next to the entrance door while we'd been waiting. I left before the hallway doors opened. We were told something could still happen, and one of us had also been pretty insistent in saying that there'd be an attack. That's why we'd stay outside if we were able to restrain everyone who evacuated very quickly. I believe this is the scenario Ashiya was going with. This was an attack by Shin intended to subvert their expectations and target a lot of regular gems instead of the Sekimeiya. Maybe it would have been a success if it hadn't been for the new alarm. The suitcase was noticed right away and the gems were retrieved. It's possible the alarm went off due to a malfunction, which is also preventing them from opening the exit before the maximum time. Right now, all we can do is wait and tell you guys to do the same. I don't believe anything else has happened, but will most likely be calling this their victory. It's very likely they intend to compensate the people who got innocently trapped once the time runs out. I'm sorry I can't be of more help. While some details are still unclear, it all more or less makes sense. Alright, is there anything else you should tell us? I don't believe so. There's nothing you should worry about besides having to be in there for a while. I personally apologise for all the inconvenience, and I'm sure you'll all be indemnified. Nobody wanted to mention that someone among us might not have been innocently trapped, and instead we stayed silent, thinking about the hours that awaited us. Was that really everything though? Was it all just a malfunction? Was Shin actually involved? I knew many things didn't quite add up. What the hell had happened to Naomi, on top of all that? Recently there had been a similar attack in Yushibana where smoke had also been released. Assuming that Shin were involved in the attack in the tower, it was a pretty easy leap to assume that they'd been behind the other one. So what are we going to do? 12 hours is a lot of time. Can we go to Sekimeiya again? We could have a sleep. I can sleep for 12 hours, I'm sure. I think you should first reunite with Miss Kabka. After that, make sure not to do anything Ashiya might not be happy with, or they could find a way to avoid compensating you. Suripo forced a smile and was about to put an end to the conversation. Suddenly, out of the 3 computer monitors, the leftmost one went black. What just happened to the screen? Sai, who was the one in front of it, was the first to react. Let me see. It's possible the computer stopped recognizing the screen. 1 second. Sai's overreaction threw everyone off, including Suripo. That was because we had only been looking at the middle screen, and the computer was still working. The leftmost screen had been displaying nothing but an empty part of the desktop. Regardless, Sai quickly grabbed the mouse Katai had been using earlier and navigated to the screen configuration settings. At least you aren't using some custom operating system. I know what I'm looking for. I see. How strange. The left monitor isn't being detected at all. Does it matter? The computer didn't actually shut down, did it? Oh, no, obviously not. We can still hear and see him. Sorry, I was just confused. I didn't know what caused it though. It just stopped detecting it out of the blue. Now, you know what screens are like. You'll have time to figure it out. For now, there are better Suripo never finished that sentence. Before he could, the other 2 screens also went black. What happened now? It wasn't only the screens this time, the computer seems to have shut down too. How? What the hell? Shiroya, Erina, and Isla were looking upward. It seemed the 3 computer screens weren't the only ones that have turned off. All the security cameras too. Oh no. The light works, so it can't be a power outage. Did a cable get disconnected? Katai crouched under the desk and looked behind the computer. There's nothing that looks wrong. He pressed the power button multiple times, but the computer refused to start up. What the hell just happened? Sounds like the power supply to me. Was it Naomi? Naomi? We're almost done with Suripo, and it was time to look at the recorded footage. If it implicated her, she might be responsible for the computer shutting off. Is she listening to us? Katai sprinted out of the room and looked at both sides of the hallway. He even peeked at the lobby. While he was out and everyone's focus had diverted to the door, I noticed something behind me. Sai had just taken his arm away from the leftmost monitor. When he noticed I was looking at him, our eyes met, and he smirked. Before I could think, noise filled the room again. Katai came back, panting. It seemed the possibility of being spied on in his workroom had really gotten to him. We didn't have to ask to know he'd found nothing. If this was achieved from outside the room, you know how it could have been done. No, that should be impossible. As I said earlier, underneath the lobby is the panel that handles the tower's electricity. While it isn't incredibly well protected, it should be impossible to power off the main computer from there. That sounds very strange. Are you sure it wouldn't be possible? I've worked here for many years, so yes. Maybe we should go check anyway. I agree. Let me go with you, esteemed visitor. Without waiting for a reply, Sai grabbed me by the shirt and lightly ushered me out of the room. Hey, wait! He didn't wait. It's fine, I'll be right back. That must have been enough for Shiroya, because she didn't follow us. I did actually want to see the panel, so I let Sai do what he wanted. It was better not to put up a fight if he gave me the same result either way. We talked about the room before, so we knew how to access it, even though it wasn't marked on the map. Sai started walking without uttering a word, and I followed behind. I wanted to ask what exactly was up with him, but the words didn't leave my mouth. We went past the reception desk. Being behind it was a strange feeling, but I didn't have time to look around. As Katai had said, the door to the mechanical room was unlocked. Past it was a very narrow and dark staircase that made a sharp turn to the right. How scary. You go first. His nonchalant way of speaking made it clear he wasn't being serious. It was supposed to be a joke, it didn't seem very appropriate. Nonetheless, I entered the stairwell first. The ceiling became a bit lower, which required me to crouch to advance. Shortly, both of us stepped into the mechanical room after opening a smaller second door. The temperature didn't change, but the light was very dim, much worse in quality than the other ones used throughout the tower. The illumination was worse than the smoke-filled hallways. High up on the wall was the panel Katai described. I had to move aside a low table to walk up to it, but reaching it didn't present a problem. I could easily touch the ceiling with my hand. I looked around me, past all the cobwebs. I could see the boiler Katai had mentioned emitting a constant buzzing sound. There were also small, worn-out pieces of furniture littered around, presumably because nothing bigger could fit through the staircase. It seemed he was right, all the switches are on. Yeah, this probably hasn't been used lately, it's all covered in dust. I agree. The panel was protected by a plastic cover with a key lock, with every switch had a label on it, on top of it. They were hard to read, but the one labelled security room, just like all the others, was on. Can I ask something? Do you believe a word of what Katai's been saying? What? What do you mean? That took me by surprise. Maybe not so much the fact that he'd been suspecting Katai, but that he'd asked me so suddenly. I mean what I said, everything that Katai has said, there's no way you believe it, right? From the beginning when he found us, when he claimed to have searched the entire floor without finding a group. About having monitored the cameras and having tried to open the exit. Remember what he said? That he hadn't found it appropriate to try and talk to the outside and instead keep looking at the available cameras. You can't seriously tell me you believe that. I don't know. It's true that I've thought that some of his claims sounded a bit off, but this might be bringing it a bit too far. I can't definitely doubt what he has said, that he panicked and prioritised figuring out what was happening before trying to contact anyone. It's strange that he didn't find us, yeah, but he said that he hadn't thoroughly examined the floor. He's been helpful to us and let us know how to contact the police. I don't think he's as suspicious as you think. Then I'll put it bluntly. I guarantee you that everything he said has been a lie. Don't trust any of his words. How can you be sure? You're free not to believe me. I told you this because I thought you'd realise it earlier. He smiled the same way as earlier and left the room with a shrug. From his face all I could make out that he was trying to have some fun, but I couldn't tell if he was just messing with me. I went upstairs through the door. I saw Sai in hallway B. I wanted to shout at him, but I caught up to him instead. There's hallway C ahead. The one that's clean. Do you feel like investigating the upper floors? What? Let's go back. He ignored me and kept walking forward. Instead of repeating myself, I felt like being the one to ask something. What do you think happened to Naomi? I couldn't quite grasp Sai's behaviour, but he was also trying to piece things together and might have agreed that more than meet the eye was going on. He didn't seem unintelligent, and since his approach appeared different from mine, his input might have been useful. I couldn't tell you for sure. Katai seemed fine looking through those monitors, but it was also not his priority. This probably means that either he doesn't think much of Naomi's disappearance, or that he knew that we wouldn't spot her, even if we looked through all the available cameras. Are you sure she's really passed out? I'm almost certain, yes. Then it's hard to believe she regained consciousness before a person as big as Arcado did. If she really inhaled the smoke that wasn't there by the time the three of you woke up, the easy explanation was that she was moved. Who would do that though, and why? How about the only person out of all of us that was conscious at the time? Katai? But why? Don't ask me. It certainly makes him look obviously suspicious, so if he still did it, he must have had a good reason. Let's check the Sekimeiya. I entered this hallway so that they wouldn't see us from the security room. Why? He turned to the left and opened the event room door. Why else though? He wanted to see if it was still there. If it's not here, Naomi took it. It's as simple as that. So many curious. Sure, go ahead. It'd be plenty interesting if it wasn't there. We would know we hadn't taken it, but the other 5 wouldn't. Not only has this room's camera been blocked off, but now they can't access any. Imagine when we tell them the cabinet was empty. They would have 3 suspects. If we look throughout the entire tower and can't find Naomi, do you think they'd suspect us? They would insist it could only have been us, that Naomi was never trapped to begin with, and we'd be the only ones to know the truth. How would you suggest we defend ourselves? I don't know. I'm sure Shiroya would believe me. I honestly doubt they would actually suspect us. You might be right. What if I claim you took off running and came here? That's why we took so long. Why the hell are you acting like this? Don't worry, I wouldn't do that. Let's see. In case it's not here, what should we tell them? Of course. Why? Should we tell them? Of course. Why? We would be certain only Naomi or a mysterious ninth person could have taken it from their point of view. We would be possible suspects too. If we didn't tell them, we could then force ourselves to split up. Someone would find out that the Sekimeiya was stolen, which would lead many more possible suspects, and their focus on us would decrease. They'd have no way to know that we'd already seen the empty cabinet. It might be unfair for them, since we're giving them a bunch of fake suspects, but I'd say it's pretty fair for us, since we know we didn't do it, right? I wasn't sure how to respond to this basic but presumptuous words. I didn't disagree with him, but it was hard for me to humour his attitude. Although I couldn't easily imagine being suspected, the thought of him falsely accusing me was a bit unnerving. Sight didn't make a lot of sense to me unless I assumed that he was just messing around for the sake of messing around. Whatever, let's look first. I walked forward and raised the curtain. Unlike before, very few dust particles fell off, leaving the pile on the floor practically unchanged. Here it is. I wanted to say something along the lines of, see, he's just being paranoid, but he beat me to it. Of course it is. After all, if it weren't, it could only have been Naomi, and that'd be too simple. Are you sure you wouldn't want to think about the other 5 conspiring together and taking it while we were in the mechanical room? Then they could suspect us while they rub their hands. What exactly is your deal? What were you even doing behind the monitor earlier? That's what I was talking about. You should think about what I told you. I could only sigh. I lowered the curtain and left the room. And with that, we're back in the security room and we need to wrap this episode up because we're out of time once again and my throat is starting to kill me, to be honest. So yeah, we'll leave that one here. And I guess the hunt for Naomi will continue in earnest in the next episode. Until then, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me and I'll see you in the next one.